crafters, Ditzybellzz here. We're still working on our backdrop, as you can see, but I've got a weekend project and I thought I'd show you. One of the ladies I work with, her other half has really muscly upper arms. She's bought him his favourite band shirt, 4 years strong. Unfortunately, doesn't fit him in the arm, so we need to add some extra. As you can see, there's a lot of different purples in here. I spent ages at the store trying to get one that matched. It was impossible. So what we did instead, we jumped back online and purchased a second shirt, just a small one, so we could add in the sleeve. Plan is, I'm going to unpick this seam, open it up, then I'm going to take the smaller shirt, then I'm just going to cut approximately 3 inches out of here and taper it down this way, and we're going to add it into the other shirt, making his armholes larger. Coincidentally, been able to match the same thread. The bonus about using the smaller shirt, this has 2 rows of stitching folded over, so it's going to make it really easy because I'm not going to have to make that perfect. I've also got the cuff already done, so it's going to be very easy to do the alterations.
Are the sleeves the same length?
Yeah, that's a really good point. When I lay down the small one and I lay the larger shirt over top, giving it approximately 3 inches actually makes the armholes match up. So apart from the difference in actual pattern, it's going to be fairly seamless. So then this will come down to about here, or I might add it in, I'm not quite sure yet. Maybe adding a whole lot but tapering it a little bit might be better. And then we can just sew it, give it a quick overlock, or serge as you say in America, and we'll be done. First job is the correct one, the larger shirt. I need to unpick the whole seams. So my trusty Jack, I love Jack. Oh, I love Jack. Jack the Ripper. Where would we be without him? Just starting the seam. There's quite a bit of bulk at the beginning, so you just got to be careful with getting that undone first. I could just cut this seam out, but because it's folded, there's quite a bit of fabric in there that we'll be able to gain, which is a benefit because that will leave me more fabric on the small shirt. Special project for that one coming up too. We waste nothing. That's not true. We're not very savvy. We cut long threads. We cut extra fabric. My Jack isn't anything fancy. It's just a cheap $2 seam ripper that we bought at the local markets. But it is wonderful. I went back and bought another half a dozen. I've got a seam ripper in every room. With my quick unpick, now that I've got it running, I just like to get my seam there nice and flat, ball down so it's inside the fabric, and just run it along. Sometimes giving it a tug to open it up a little bit if you get to a seam, and keep going. As long as you've got it nice and flat and you've got a nice sharp Jack, and don't force it because if you've got a good quality, it's going to be sharp and it's just going to pop those threads anyway. Here for the seam it's a little bit tricky. I might just leave that bit for the moment because we might not add that far down, so then I won't have to do the hem on the bottom. See what I mean by there was quite a lot? There's probably 3/4 of an inch there that was folded up. Yep, just over ½ an inch, almost 3/4. It's a lot of fabric that we got to gain. Now I'll do the second row of stitching. I don't like to pull on it too hard because I don't like the holes being spread open. You run the risk of tearing then. So back to another seam again. I'm just going to do the unpick on the back. We've got through that just by cutting those back ones. Now let's go for the run of the seam now. Have I told you how much I hate unpicking? I'm a professional at it, but I hate it. However, I do feel it is a very important step when mending. This shirt is made of quite fine cotton, so you can really see the stitch holes. So by being gentle by doing the unpicking with Jack, it doesn't stretch those holes any wider, and they will go back once you've had a wash and a press. Now I'm down to the bottom again. I'm just going to leave that last little inch, as we may not need to unpick the hemline. Now that's got all that open for us. Makes it easier to work with. I'll just do the other side now. So we have all the armholes unpicked with the assistance of Jack. Now we need to cut into the shirt. Okay, so what I've done is I've laid it out. I know I need at least 2 inches, so that's 4 inches in total to the sleeve. So now I'm just making sure that from the seam of the armhole to the cuff is going to be about the same. So if I cut a little bit extra, it's going to meet in the middle and we should be fine. So I'd say I'm going to give it at least that, so that's a good 3.5 inches that I'm going to add. Now this is just a guide so that I make sure I get enough of the sleeve in. So the original shirt that we're altering, just lay this nicely out as flat as I can. It's got the extras in the arm there. So I'll just lay this over here purely for cosmetic reasons. So I can quite easily add that all the way down to the end because it's going to turn out at about the same length. From there I'm going to cut evenly. I think this will turn out better. 1 3/4. So I'm going to cut 1 3/4 all the way up. Once I get it going, I just tend to fold up where I've been and use that as a guide. So there's the section that we're going to add in. There's one. Now it makes it nice and easy for the other side. I'm needing to remember I had the seam folded over to the front. To make sure that it's even, I'm going to make sure I do it on the other side as well. If you've got it to the back, that's fine. Got it to the front, that's fine, as long as you're consistent on both sides. Here I'm going to pop a couple of random pins in. Well away from where my scissors will be cutting. Nice part about this, it's going to leave my pocket. So I'll have that on that special project we spoke about. Cutting along the guide. Make sure I miss those pins. we're done with this shirt. That's going to come back for our project later. Take our pins out. Now this came from the left of our shirt. This one came from the right. And we spoke about, oh no, what are we going to do about the ticket? It's still on the seam of this one, so they're still going to know how to wash it. Anything like me? In it all goes, lid goes down, wish it good luck. So now the little tedious task of pinning it all in, making sure we get the right sides in the right sides. The left side with the left. I need to have this inside out. Now for this part, it's just making sure all our seams are lining up correctly. So with the seams under the armpit, we don't want them together, we want them crossed over. So when we do our seam with this machine, it will in fact make them together. So just crisscrossing them, making sure that on your 5/8, whatever you type, whatever the width you use on your machine, it will make a crisscross over. So just crisscrossing my seams, just manipulating the fabric so that it's going to sit flat. See, if you make it nice and taut, it will sit flat. We're going to have some extra, we'll chop that off. But that has got that sitting nice. So now I've got the bit from the armpit down to the waist. So what I'm going to do is just sew it down into a point like so, and then I'll be able to blend those seams in. So here I have decided I'm going to unpick that. Again, this is where you want to be gentle because we're going to be sewing here again. We don't want to see lots and lots of little holes. And if you're worried that there's going to be a join, this was professionally made and there's a join just here, so it's not going to make a difference. Opening up that seam because we need a couple of good inches to work with. My insert has come up about an inch shorter. It's not going to make a difference because we'll blend that in. Do need to open up that seam though, so we might as well go all the way across and do that now. I'm actually not going to iron that flat because when it comes to having to re-sew it, we've got the perfect seam already to go by. That fold will be lovely. So just pinning now, just easing the two fabrics together. And you know, I've done the same mistake that I do every other time that I pin my projects together. I end up putting the pins on the bottom to where I'm actually going to be sewing. You can bet I will do it more often than not. Because we'll be manipulating this fabric, this is the one I want to make sure it's going to go through, so I want it on top. So I'm just going to very carefully pull back my pins and just line up on that seam, the edge, just so I know where I am as I'm sewing. Pulling that pin out of my way. There we go. Now let's pin the other side. Just finding a happy medium for here. I've already pinned that. My pins, my mother-in-law bought me. They're really fine and extra long with a glass head. Really don't know where she bought them from, but I love them. So now just easing down the side of the body. They might have been so easy. We'll get back to you on that. My tuffet. I love my tuffets. I made that myself. All the way down. Now to the machine. Because I want to make sure I feed that one properly, I'm going to start at the bottom and go up for this seam. Do you sew over your pins? Do you pull your pins out? Sometimes I sew over my pins, sometimes I don't. Just depends on the project. I've broken a couple of needles, I've bent a lot of pins. Just depends on what I'm doing. No one has ever been killed or lost an eye. Just coming up to the tricky part of the armpit seam. I'm just going to have it relax now. I'm not really too fussed if it's going to line up perfect in the armpit seam. It's more about making sure it fits in. So that seam's done. It's a little bit off here in the armpit, but I'm really not too worried. I know that my client's not too worried as long as he's got the shirt. Maybe if he was going to be, I might have unpicked all the sleeve and re-added that way. That was a possibility. All my pins are on the bottom for this side. It's a bit trickier. Sometimes I find Jack really handy if I need to flatten out my fabric before it goes under the foot, just to get rid of any creases or anything like that. You can use a stiletto. I have a couple of them. Jack does the same thing. So because the other seam didn't line up 100% perfect, I'm making sure it doesn't on the other arm as well, on the front side, just for consistency. Because then it doesn't look like a mistake, it was by design. And that's the beauty. Ever you think you've done something a little bit different, don't call it a mistake. Reproduce, it's now by design. Let's have a little look at it. So that's the section that we've inserted. A step there, I don't mind. And a step there, I don't mind, because guess what? It matches both sides. So therefore, it's by design. That has given him quite a big arm opening now. So that's quite a lot of extra arm and a little bit extra around his chest. So when he pulls those arms, it's not going to be too tight now. Let's do the other side. Got to remember the other side, by design. By design. If anyone's wondering where Cassandra is today, she's behind the camera. No, she's not. She's down there on the floor. She's doing her makeup. She's going out shortly. I've got to remember how I did the by design. Interesting when you open up what we claim to be a professional sewn garment, how long the threads are hidden in a seam. And guess what? I hit a pin. I feel the little dint in it now when I'm opening and closing. So it's going to need some love by the husband. And a lecture that normally comes from Cassandra. I just broke a needle. There was no pin under that needle. It just broke. Sewing again. There was no pin involved in that. Just me pulling the fabric a bit tight. One little thing that I tend to do when I'm sewing, because I sew many different things, I love my quilting, I love my piecing for the patchwork, but I also enjoy general sewing. Whatever needle is in my machine, I keep the packet in the top of my machine. It has an opening. My other one, I used to just keep it in the little toolbox. So I always knew what type of needle I had in so I could change it over. There was a day when I used to go one needle, did everything. Not really. The last seam. Now let's trim this without hitting the needles. I tried not to say anything, but I thought, who am I kidding? Cassandra's going to be doing the editing. She's going to see what I did anyway.
I see everything.
I'm not the type of person who would like their machine going flat out either. I'd prefer to go slow and steady and get my seam right than having to use jack too much. If I go flat out, I'm like a drunk man. And I've done some sewing in my day. Bad too. So now I've inserted the second arm. I've kept the step by design, so the other arm matches on both sides. Now I'm just going to take it to my overlocker and overlock the seams. Unfortunately, it isn't in camera view, so I'll be back. All the overlocking has been done on both seams. So that looks quite nice. Now with the sleeve itself, because I kept the original hem, I've got these yucky bits here, the long dangles. I don't want to chop them because that's just going to make them fray and threads are going to be hanging, and you know what guys are like when they have a thread, they just tug. So my mum taught me, fold it back over, just do a little bit of a zigzag stitch. That'll hold those threads back in place, and as you can see now, that sits a whole lot nicer there. It's not going to have threads that are going to come out, so let's do it to all four of them now. I'm just doing a standard normal zigzag, nothing fancy. My zigzag tend to miss most of that. This is a new machine, I'm still getting used to it. You don't have to do this step, I just prefer to. Just makes it sit without those threads. Because I was quick and didn't want to do cuffs. So now we're back down to the bottom. I probably need to open up that hem a little bit more. So what I need to do now for this bottom hem, I don't want to iron it because I want to keep those lines. But what I do need to do is trim this down so that we're even both sides. Not worrying too much about accuracy because we've got those lines and we're going to fold perfect. So one thing I find about band t-shirts, they stop at around about a 4XL. Doesn't help most guys that have that muscle arm that needs a larger sleeve, and I really don't think that they're the size they say they are. So I'm just going to pin this in place a little bit where I know it's perfect. Because I didn't iron this bit, it took a little bit of manipulating, just pressing it with my fingers to get it right. Let's run it through the machine. Now I'm just going to go about an inch past where the stitching was, about 2 mil from the edge. Just slow and steady wins the race. And just in case you want an update on Cassie, the makeup's done, the hair's getting curled now. That one's got the hem done on it. Quite happy with that. Just for the record, I'm not a professional mender. Mending is not my favourite thing, but this isn't mending, this is an alteration to fit somebody who needed it. So I don't mind doing those projects. Let's get this one to again, making sure I cover some of the pre-existing stitching. I have chopped and sewn, hemmed and overlocked, and it still looks like a shirt. So we've got our insert. We've been able to add quite a bit extra, 9 inches in fact, to the band. So that's a lot more comfortable for a man when he's moving his arms. Still got the shape in the body. How's this side looking? Lovely. The same amount each side because we moved those middle seams to the same direction. We've got slightly bigger on the back, slightly thinner on the front, but it's consistent. As I said, doesn't matter if you do something a little bit different, as long as you make it consistent, because then it's by design. So the sleeve, the insert here hasn't matched up completely, doesn't matter, it's perfect both sides, and it's the same this side, so now it's by design. Now we have a guy who can proudly wear his band shirt 4 years strong. So very happy with the end result. I'm sure he will be too. We still have this leftover hacked up shirt. We're going to turn that into a pillow. Stay tuned for that video, crafters. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.